I'm here with Dylan with 405 Mods, and today we want to go over a couple different options of suspension that are offered from WP. So we kind of have a good, better, best, if you will. So starting off on our good, Dylan, what do we have over here?
So here we have the internals for a WP air fork system. So this is what's going to come in the right side of the fork. You have your compression post and your mid-valve and rebound piston. This is what we would typically set, I would say 50% of our customers up with, just a standard revalve.
So what are the benefits of this? So you said cost, right? So this is going to be the parts that are already on your bike is here.
Yes.
What you have to offer is making this customizable, right?
Yes.
You can already adjust it with your clickers and things like that. But if I wanted to have this adjusted to my ride, you can go in there and put a different shim stack in there. If you needed to put a different spring on the shock, you could do that. And we could go get a pretty good ride, a better ride than what it came stock with. Because now it's going to be set up for me. It's like a custom fit suit, basically.
Yes, we're going to tailor this suspension and these shim stacks to a variety of factors. We're going to tailor them to your height, your weight, skill level, the type of riding that you're doing. All of these things play a factor into how we would set this up, so give you the ride that you're looking for.
Now, next step up here, this is our 6500 kit. So this is going to be a drop-in setup to the fork tubes that you already have.
Yes.
This is going to be replacing the air cartridge.
It's going to replace the air cartridge and the damping cartridge both. So with the 6500 cartridge kit, you actually have two of these identical cartridges, and they're going to go in both forks, so that you're going to have dual spring and dual rebound and compression control out of this kit. Another cool factor that this kit comes with is external preload adjustment.
Oh,
so
okay.
you can adjust the preload of this spring similar to how you adjust the preload on your shock for your sag. You can change this to kind of change the starting point of your spring tension.
So what are some of the things that people like about this? Because now you're replacing some actual components. What's the benefit of this?
I would say the consistency. The consistency is the biggest thing that you gain from any dual spring conversion kit. With your air fork, you are going to have to battle a little bit of fluctuation in temperatures and having to check that each time. If you're an off-road rider and you're doing long races, that air pressure is going to increase throughout the race, and so what you start with and what you end with are going to be two different air pressures. Your fork is going to get stiffer as it goes on. With this dual spring, what you start with is what you end with. So you're going to have the consistency.
Yeah, that's huge, especially over the off-road riders.
Yes.
And you're going to see something similar to this more in the new KTM Husky Gas off-road competition bikes. You're going to see something similar to this, maybe a dumbed-down version. Basically.
Yeah, it won't have the preload adjustment, and the internals are a little bit different. These are the same internals that come in your A-kit cone valve forks.
Okay, so that's a really good transition. So good, better, which is replacing some of the stuff. This is a complete replacement. So we're not dropping anything into this. This is going to be a complete setup. It's going to come in its own fancy case. This is what we call the A-kit.
Yes.
So this is that elite level. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So yeah, what you're gaining with this is the complete fork tubes. So you have a really nice quality tube with a really nice coating on it. Helps with the friction. And then the lugs on this are billet machined lugs, so you don't have the cast parts that you would still have if you were just doing the 6500 insert kit. The internals in these look very similar to this. They're almost identical, minus the fact that traditionally the 6500 cartridge kit will come with a piston and shim stack for this mid-valve control, which is still a great option. But with this cone valve, you have just that much more precision adjustability. Mm-hmm. With these, you're gaining that predictability and that precision that you need if you're an elite rider and looking for that.
Yeah, because you usually see this with that A-level pro rider, or you see it with that vet rider that's got just a ton of money to blow and just wants that perfect ride.
Yep.
So this is the best option, especially if that's what you need or if you have unlimited budget. Whereas this guy right here is going to be kind of that happy medium, to where if you're on a budget but you can afford to spend a little bit of money on a really good suspension setup that's going to feel good and it's going to stay the same the whole time, it's consistent like you talked about, that's going to be your 6500 kit. And if you're just making do with what you've got, but you want to do better than just changing your clickers or maybe even just changing your spring rate. You want to go in and you're going to revalve that. Okay, so we've got kind of our good, our better, our best for the forks. Let's talk a little bit about this is the track shock. Now, that's kind of obviously the other end of things. Tell me a little bit about the track shock and how that's going to benefit the rider. That's usually one of the things that you really only see when you get to that upper end of things.
Yeah, so the track shock is it's similar to the production shock, except you just have a lot more adjustment. So on the production shock, you have high speed and low speed and rebound control. On this shock, you have high speed compression, low speed compression, you have rebound, and then you also have the tracks adjustment. And so what the tracks adjuster does is it opens up the internally in the shock. It allows the shock to open up and pull into a bump to make sure that you're keeping traction when you go across any kind of holes in the surface. So the shock actually extends a little bit when it can to keep that rear wheel planted on the ground.
So more traction, more adjustability, more traction, traction.
Yep,
that makes sense. Plus it comes with a cool adjuster on it, and they look sick whenever they're poking out the side of the bike.
Yep,
you get that little sneak peek behind.
Yeah, they also typically come with a bladder in the shock, whereas this comes with a piston style reservoir. So the key benefits with that is as the shock is changing from compression to rebound, you have a much quicker response, and then also it doesn't build up heat as quickly. So the shock doesn't what you hear people talk about fade. It gets softer over time because of that heat buildup during the motor.
Can you kind of speak into a little bit of we talked about good, we talked about better, we talked about best. Just give us kind of a ballpark, not an exact figure, kind of a ballpark of what we can expect to spend. Obviously, this is stock. This comes with the bike. You already paid your $10,000 for this. But what could I expect to spend to send this to a shop to get this to fit me as a rider? Yeah,
so there's several factors that are going to come into that. If this is a new bike, there's a lot of parts, wear parts, seals, bushings, oil, stuff like that may not need to be replaced. If it's a used bike, obviously you're going to have those costs to service it to get it back to a standard so that we can perform our service. But typically with this option, you're probably going to be around the $700 to $1,000 range with the rear spring as well to go with your bike. With this option, this kit is about $1,300. So you've got your $1,000 plus 13. You're going to be in the $2,300 range. And then these forks here, same thing. You're going to be about $1,000 in the service for everything. If these aren't new, if you're buying these are about $3,500.
That's actually interesting. So $3,500 for the forks. I know that sounds like a ton of money. So WP probably has the least expensive A kit out there because Show has an A kit, KYB has an A kit, but those are they're selling those used for more than a new set.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're buying the complete set of forks. So if you want to, there's nothing stopping you from throwing your production forks that came on the bike on eBay for $1,000, MX Locker, anything like that, and sell them and recouping some of that money to where now you have a set of suspension and you have a complete ready to go thing.
Yeah, and Dylan mentioned that you do want to get regular services done because over time things are going to break out. Your bushings, your seals, all that stuff's going to wear out. Your oil's going to wear out over a certain amount of time. So I just want to continue to reiterate, suspension isn't something where you just set it and you forget it. How many hours are we looking at?
It depends on the type of riding that you're doing, but somewhere in the 30 to 50 hour range. Any quality of oil, it doesn't matter if you have the most expensive, best oil. After about 40 hours, it's going to start breaking down, and you start losing the lubricity of everything, and that will start wearing out some of the internal components, and ultimately affecting your ride.
Yeah. So, for average Joe rider, I think that calculates out to about 50 hours a year. If they're a weekend warrior riding about every weekend, that's about 50 hours a year. So, about once a year.
Yeah.
Man, guys, this is one of the biggest things. I've been in bike sales for years and years and years, and I don't really have a lot of stake in the game of getting your suspension done. But when customers are coming in, they're asking, man, I want to put a pipe on this thing. I want to get a tune done to this thing. My first thing I try to tell them is go get your suspension done, get it set up for you. That's going to make you so much better and faster and safer of a rider right out of the box than any of those bolt-on parts are going to do. The hard part of getting someone to do that is it is expensive, but that's the number one thing that you're going to get your money back out of. The rest of the stuff is just bolt-on and looks cool, where this stuff is primarily invisible unless someone knows exactly what they're looking for. But if you're going out on the weekend and you're having a better time riding, you're not getting hurt because the bike is doing what it's supposed to do, and overall you're getting less tired too. You just have a better ride, and this is that thing that's going to make that difference. So I get the question a lot too from parents, like, what can I do to make my kid faster? Well, I'm never going to tell them not to go get training done, to go to a riding coach or things like that. But my next question is a suspension setup for them, because if they're setting or trying to ride a suspension that is not set up for them, that's the quickest way to make a big improvement for your rider.
Absolutely, absolutely. It doesn't matter, you could have the fastest engine and everything else, the best looking bike, but if it doesn't handle and you're on the ground, you're losing races. And that's kind of the thing. At 4 or 5 mods, our three things, our key things, is safer, smoother, faster. Safety is our number one thing when it comes to setting the suspension up. Is we want people riding smoother. That gives you that makes you smoother and ultimately makes you faster. So without setting your suspension up, like I said, with everything else, it doesn't really matter if you can't get the bike to handle.
Absolutely. But overall, this is just meant to be kind of an overview. If you have any questions about this, hit us up at Ajax Motorsports and Dylan at 405 Mods down here in Norman. But we hope that you found this helpful, and we appreciate you coming by.
Thank you.